Undoubtedly and undeniably, Darth Sidious was one of the most powerful Sith Lords that have ever lived. His pure knowledge of the dark side of the Force was nearly unrivaled by others, simply because those others that came before him had accumulated all of the knowledge that Sidious himself took full advantage of. Sidious also achieved the main goal of the Sith, to take utter control of the entire galaxy, and he did so almost single-handedly. There's no denying that Darth Sidious was a phenomenal Dark Lord of the Sith, well-learned, and more than this, extremely powerful in the dark side. Even from a very early age, Sidious had an affinity for the Force, and also a mental disorder that caused the dark side of the Force to flow through him extremely effectively. For all of these reasons, many consider Darth Sidious the most powerful Sith Lord that has ever lived, but at the same time, most ancient Sith Lords in their spirit forms frowned upon the deeds of Darth Sidious. His power was undeniable even in their own eyes, but still, they hated him. They hated him not because he went against any philosophy of the Dark Lords of the Sith, but for one very specific reason. They hated him for an obsession on behalf of Darth Sidious, an obsession with the ancient enemies of the Sith. The Sith hated Darth Sidious because he was obsessed with the Jedi. The ancient Dark Lords believed themselves so far superior to the Jedi that they seldom dealt with them. They only dealt with the Jedi Order when they were an immediate threat to their own goals. Sidious, though, was obsessed and would study Jedi records and Jedi knowledge nearly as much as he would Sith knowledge. Ultimately, Darth Sidious was proven correct, as it was all of this knowledge that allowed him to overthrow the Jedi. Still though, the ancient Sith Lords hated that the Prime Sith Lord, the most powerful Sith Lord that had ever lived, was obsessed with the Jedi, their enemy that should be so much lesser than what they actually were. The Sith cautioned against Darth Sidious, proclaiming that his obsession with the Jedi would in fact be his downfall, which of course came to pass. The ancient Sith were infuriated in part because many of the more notable modern Sith Lords would stem from the Jedi Order. Sith Lords in legends like Darth Vader and Darth Krayt, all former Jedi themselves. Sidious too believed himself above the Jedi Order, but he refused to underestimate them, a fatal mistake that Sith Lords had made in the past. Still though, the Sith would caution that Darth Sidious was a little bit too obsessed with the Jedi. It would be as if a man becoming obsessed with a single ant, as this is how they viewed themselves above the Jedi Order. Ultimately, Sidious's obsession came with many pros and cons. The pros were is Sidious was able to achieve what the other Sith Lords could not. Time and time again, the ancient Sith Lords underestimated the Jedi, and the Jedi prevailed. Ancient Sith like Naga Sadow believed his power far beyond any Jedi of the Republic, and still he was defeated. Sith Lords like Revan believed himself beyond the pull of the light side of the Force, and ultimately though, he was turned back to the light by Jedi. What made Sidious successful is he learned from the past Sith Lords' mistakes, and put his own pride aside for only a moment. The cons of this though, is Sidious became obsessed with the Jedi Order enough that he did not immediately strike down the Jedi prodigy and new Jedi Luke Skywalker, the Jedi Knight that would unfortunately finally defeat Darth Sidious. Sidious's obsession ultimately culminating in his very death, and the ancient Sith proven correct in the end. However, without Sidious's obsession, he would have never risen to control the galaxy as he did. Anyway guys, I just found this to be a super interesting aspect of the Star Wars mythos, and how the thing that ultimately resulted in Sidious becoming so powerful also resulted in his death, as is the case in most times with power. But as always guys, leave your own interpretations of this in the comments down below.
Do it.
What are your guys' thoughts on the ancient Sith Lords' opinions of Darth Sidious, and how they respected him and yet cautioned against him and believed that he was somewhat misled? As always my friends, thank you so much for watching the video, may the Force be with you, and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to check out my other channel, The Marvelous Wave, where we talk all about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including news, breakdowns, and theories about all upcoming and past Marvel movies. Link to the channel is in the description below.